and welcome to Dear Dr.Charryse, a mental health podcast where we discuss life through the lens of integrative health, mindset, and neuroscience so that you can learn, grow, and honor the space you're designed to occupy. I'm always excited to be back in this space and just sharing with each of you all of the things that I continue to learn and experience, and some of the things that you bring to my attention that are at the core of your heart and mind and life experiences. Opening quote for today: balance isn't the absence of obligation. It's the courage to honor your capacity without apology. So today we're going to talk about something that many of us wrestle with in silence: the emotional tug of war between honoring our peace and then meeting the expectations of others. So if we had to title this episode, we would focus on when balance offends and choosing peace over people pleasing. This conversation is for anyone and everyone who's ever felt guilty for resting. If you've ever been in a situation where you've questioned your worth, and if it's okay for you to set boundaries, or when setting those boundaries, if you've noticed you've been labeled as selfish because you chose your sanity over overextension. So we're going to get into the neuroscience of people pleasing and explore why balance can make others uncomfortable. And then I want to give you, of course, some practical strategies that you can use to stop overcompensating without disconnecting from your compassion. People pleasing, let's get into it. It's more than a personality trait. It's a nervous system pattern that often begins in childhood. When we grow up in an environment where love, safety, or approval feels conditional, our brain then learns to equate compliance with connection. So if I do what this person desires, then I'll get the connection or the love that I desire out of them. And unfortunately, we can see that trace from childhood all the way through to adulthood in some of our partner relationships and even our relationships with coworkers or colleagues or our administrators and bosses. So neuroscientifically speaking, the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is your fear center, it becomes hyper alert to relational tension. When we are in a state of nervous system overload around this dynamic, then seeing disapproval or disapproval will be seen as danger. I want you to think about that. And if that's something that you've ever experienced, where one of the worst things possible is for you to feel that tension or even consider that someone else might not be okay with a choice that you need to make for who you are, then the anterior cingulate cortex, which is responsible for monitoring social areas, lights up when we perceive that we've disappointed someone. When that happens, the prefrontal cortex, which handles logic and boundaries, gets overridden with emotional memories that tell us if I don't please them, I'll lose them. And sometimes that's something that we specifically say to ourselves. Sometimes that's just a felt sense that we embody, and then we react in whatever way will help us escape that feeling. But then the result is that even as adults, we defer. We say yes when we really mean no, and abandon balance to avoid the internal discomfort of feeling like we've let someone down. But here's a really important insight. People pleasing is a form of self-abandonment dressed up as kindness, dressed up sometimes as flexibility, sometimes dressed up as being easygoing. Here's a truth that most people won't tell you. Balance will offend people who benefit from your imbalance. So when you start choosing rest over hustle or no over a reflexive yes, you may be met with confusion, distance, or even resistance from people that you know and love. People may accuse you of being distant. They may accuse you of being selfish or difficult. And then your inner critic can even strike up a conversation and likely scream, "You're disappointing everyone." But here's the deal. Tension is not always a sign you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's the sign that you're finally doing something right. You can be deeply caring without being perpetually compliant. Let me say that again. You can be deeply caring, available, and supportive, and still have limits. It's not your job to manage how others experience your boundaries. If you find that you resonate with anything that I've just said, all is not lost. Here are a few tangible tools so that you can move from pleasing to peace. Let's get practical. First, body check before you commit. When someone asks something of you, pause, place your hand on your stomach or your chest, and ask yourself, does this feel like alignment or does this feel like obligation? It's important that you use your body's signals, tightness, fatigue, breath, heart palpitations, sweating, as data to let you know, are you really moving through life and through your choices from a place of alignment? Number 2, practice the power pause. So create a habit not of saying yes on the spot. So try this line instead. Let me check my capacity and get back to you. And if you're uncomfortable with saying capacity, then just simplify it even further and say, let me check on a few areas of life, or let me check my calendar. Let me take a step back and make sure that I'm not going to overpromise my commitment and get back to you. The key is for you not to jump into saying yes. When you slow down and you practice that power pause, it rewires urgency and then builds your self-trust muscle. Number 3, use compassionate clarity. So say no with warmth, not guilt. For example, I care about you, and that's why I want to be honest. I can't offer my best if I say yes right now. You don't have to over-explain. Boundaries don't need permission, just communication. But let me tell you this. If you communicate your boundaries with warmth and clarity and people push back or make you feel guilty because your boundaries are outside of what they want, that is telling you something very specific about that person's place in your life and whether or not that's going to be a healthy relationship long term. A healthy person will not push against your boundaries, even when they don't like them. Number 4, rewrite your inner narrative. So people pleasers often have core beliefs like, if I say no, I'll be rejected, or rest is lazy. And we want to replace those with new scripts like, my peace is productive and my value isn't tied to my availability. Your value rests in so many other places than how available you are to get things done. And number 5, track the benefits of balance. So each week, write down what you said no to, what that made space for, rest, creativity, presence, and then how you felt. Once you got past the fear of saying no, how did you feel in your body and in your mind? And this will help you retrain your brain to associate balance with reward, not punishment. So let's reflect. Here's a few things that you can consider as you move from thought to action. Where in your life do you fear that balance might offend someone? Another question to reflect on is, what are you really afraid of? Losing approval, affection, or identity? Maybe even all 3. And last question, who taught you that peace required self-erasure? Your challenge this week is to say one intentional no that creates space for your emotional or physical wellness, not because you don't care, but because you finally do. And I want you to remember this. The more you live in alignment, the more you'll disrupt the expectations that were never yours to carry. Choosing peace is not passive. It is a radical act of emotional self-respect. And yes, it may change your relationships, but it will also change your relationship with yourself. You are not here to be convenient. You are here to be whole. If this episode resonated with you, please make sure that you share it with someone who needs permission to let go of guilt and lean into grace. Subscribe to this podcast, leave a review because it does help bring these honest conversations to more people. Until next time, give yourself permission to honor your capacity and trust that peace is always worth the priority. We'll meet again soon.